Hey everybody, what's up? It's Reclaimer here. Hope you're doing well. Today, I'm going to be giving my initial impressions of Google Stadia. Google Stadia is a cloud-based gaming service that released towards the tail end of 2019 and was one of the first major releases of a cloud-based gaming service. And it's been met with some, I guess, tepid reviews. And you can see, I'll pop them all up here on the screen. But there's some folks that have had some complaints with Stadia, either from a performance, a value, or a communication aspect, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Just in the last couple of weeks, started to really look into cloud-based gaming, and I'm going to talk about that. So what are we going to do today in the video? We're going to talk about why I'm looking to adopt cloud-based gaming, why I went with Stadia, what you're going to be getting or what you need to know if you're going to get into Stadia, and I want to talk a little bit about my performance and testing that I've done with Stadia so far and give you some initial impressions about that. So it's going to be a video that's a little bit on the longer side, but I want to make sure that you're getting a good, unbiased, unsponsored opinion of my experience with Google Stadia. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First things first, let's talk about what is cloud-based gaming and why I'm adopting it. So most of you may know this, but if you don't, cloud-based gaming is where you do not need to have physical game hardware with you in order to play games. So you don't need a console, you don't need a gaming PC, you need some type of input device like a controller, a good internet connection, and then a subscription to some type of cloud-based gaming service. And the servers up in the cloud process everything for the game, the graphics, the input, output, all that type of stuff gets processed in the cloud, and what you're left with is the ability to play a game pretty much anywhere, wherever you are, as long as you have a good internet connection and you kind of meet the requirements based off of the gaming service. So why am I getting into cloud-based gaming? So if you know me a little bit, or if you've seen some of my content, you might know that I travel a decent amount for work. Now, for me, a decent amount is once or twice a month for work. Some people out there, I'm sure you may travel multiple times a week, and that's, I hope to never be you in that regard. That's a little bit too much travel for me, but anyway, I travel a decent amount for work, and one of the games that I really enjoy playing is Destiny 2. Well, with Destiny 2, you have the grind, you need to be able to grind levels, you sometimes want to be there for certain time-bound events, and I found several times throughout Destiny 2's existence that I would be missing out on playing that game when I'm traveling for work. Then Google Stadia came out, and that piqued my interest because pretty much Bungie and Google worked hard to make sure that Destiny 2 was a Stadia launch title. And I was like, that is something I probably want to look into. So I did. And last week, I decided I'm going to make the leap and I'm going to invest in Stadia. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about what does investing in Stadia look like? What are you going to be spending? What do you have to buy? What does that ecosystem look like? So first off, if you haven't invested in Stadia, like you weren't an early access or like a launch supporter, the only option that you have right now is to buy the Stadia Premier Edition on the Google Store. And what that entails is spending $130 and you get a Stadia controller and a Chromecast Ultra, and you get 3 months of Stadia Pro included. Now currently, Stadia Pro costs $10 a month, and that's what you pay to have access to the game streaming service. Now Google does mention that they're going to release more of a basic basic tier level. I believe that's looking at somewhere around $6 a month, and that's going to limit the amount of fidelity that you get out of your graphics, but it will end up being a little bit cheaper. So definitely something to consider. But so for $130, you get the controller, you get a Chromecast Ultra, and you get 3 months of Stadia Pro. As part of that, then you get your invite code to Stadia. So I did this last week, and once my actual physical order shipped, I got an email from Google saying, here's your Stadia code. And I was like, okay, cool. So what you do is you download the Stadia app on your iOS or your Android device, you add the code, and then you create your Stadia profile. So you select like a gamer tag, right? You select a profile name, you put in your privacy settings, all that fun stuff, and then you're ready to go, and you have access to Stadia. Now, Let's talk about games on Stadia. So with Stadia Pro, it's almost like Xbox games with gold, where you get some games, usually 1 or 2 games a month, where a game comes out and you can add it to your collection. And what that means is now you have that game as long as you have access to Stadia. You don't have to pay for the game or anything. As long as you have access to Stadia, you can play that game. Destiny 2: The Collection is one of those games. You can also buy games on the Stadia store as well. So there are games that are being added more every month. It's not a lot, and there's actually some criticism right now that the Stadia game library is a little bit abysmal, I guess, according to some reviewers out there. But you can purchase games as well. So if the game that you want to play isn't included with Stadia Pro, you can spend some money and buy the game so you have access to it. So now that we talked about the financials, let's talk about the hardware. So right now, Stadia needs, first off, a very good internet connection, and that means either hardwire Ethernet or 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Now, for most of us here at home, not too much of an issue, right? You typically are going to have a good Wi-Fi connection, or you're going to have hardwired Ethernet to be able to plug into that Chromecast Ultra or even to your computer as you're sitting in front of it. When you're traveling, however, you're pretty much going to have to look and see, does the hotel have an Ethernet jack that I can plug in and hardwire it to the Chromecast Ultra? Or am I going to need to use Wi-Fi? And will that Wi-Fi be sufficient? And that's going to be highly dependent on like the hotel or place that you're staying. You may also be able to look into see if your mobile hotspots, if you have that with your cellular carrier, will that be sufficient? So that's going to be highly specific to you and your needs. So I'm not going to get too much into it, but you do need to know that you need to have a solid internet connection, whether that's Ethernet or 5 gigahertz wireless. So that's a big thing that you need. The next thing that you're going to need for Stadia is you're going to need either the Chromecast Ultra if you want to be able to play on any television or any monitor with an HDMI port, or you need to have Google Chrome as a web browser, or you need to have select Android-based smartphones or tablets. So Pixel, for example, the Google Pixel, supports Stadia, but there are some other Android phones and tablets out there that do not support Stadia at this time. Really important that you go to the Stadia website to get the information before you invest in this. So just something that I want to call out. All right, so I want to talk about the hardware a little bit here real quick because, I mean, you have to get this hardware in order to get access to Stadia, at least right now. So when you get it, again, I mentioned it's $130, and you get it in this nice, decent-sized packaging, pretty cool, pretty good quality packaging. Good job, Google. So let's talk about what you get. So I mentioned before that you get the Stadia controller and you get the Chromecast Ultra. So the Stadia controller uses Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. It does have a headset jack, so it has a 3.5 millimeter headset jack, and you can use that with headsets that have a microphone or don't have a microphone. It does have a USB-C port, and you can use that for charging, wired gameplay, and other accessories like USB-C headsets or HID-compliant devices. It says it's 268 grams. It feels like a good weight to me. It does have a Google Assistant button, and you can use that to trigger your microphone. It has a capture button, so you can do like quick captures of your gameplay. And it has an internal lithium-ion rechargeable battery, which I think is really nice to have. And then, of course, you have the Chromecast Ultra. Now, the Chromecast Ultra is a pretty unassuming looking device. It's got an HDMI connection directly to the Chromecast Ultra. It's a small little black puck. I'm going to call it a puck because it reminds me of a hockey puck. And then you have an AC adapter, and that AC adapter has the ability for you to inject Ethernet to it. So what does this mean? This means that you can use the Chromecast Ultra on either a wired or wireless network. So when you're traveling, like I'm going to be doing, if my hotel has the ability for me to hardwire, I'm probably going to do that. But if it doesn't have the ability for me to do that, I can go ahead and just use the wireless network. Not a problem, right? When we look at the hardware, it's pretty unassuming. It's pretty simple. Ergonomically, it feels pretty good in the hand. I think it's a nice, clean design. It feels good. It doesn't feel cheap. Would I say it's as good of a build as like the Xbox One Elite controller? I don't know if I'd go that far. The Chromecast Ultra, again, unassuming device, pretty simple. It's just the little puck with a wire that connects to HDMI, and then you have the ability to input an AC adapter. I do like that the HDMI connector has a magnet on it, so you can actually fold it up on the puck. It makes it nice to travel. It's going to fit really nice into my travel bag. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with Stadia and what I've done so far. Before I had the Stadia hardware, and I had access via that code that I got emailed to me, what I did was I first tried it out with my computer. So what I did was I opened up Google Chrome, I went to stadia.com, and I loaded Destiny 2, the collection. I used Chrome, and then what I did was I connected my Xbox One Elite controller via USB to my computer, and it worked. It recognized it, no problem with that. So I loaded up Destiny 2, and I was pretty impressed, actually. From a graphics perspective, was it beautiful like I would have if I had my gaming PC, if I was playing the game locally on my gaming PC or my Xbox One X? No, it was definitely a little bit lower fidelity. The input lag wasn't horrible, it was noticeable, but I didn't really notice any stuttering or any frame drops or artifacts or any issues like that when I was playing using a hardwired connection. It was actually quite a nice experience. I played for about an hour. I kind of realized, wow, I'm playing through my internet browser. I'm not using any hardware right now other than the controller. It was actually kind of a crazy experience to have. Now, with that said, I was playing PvE activities, including strikes. After a while, I got used to the input lag, but there was a noticeable input lag. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was noticeable. And I thought to myself, I probably would not play Crucible with this. Unless I was playing on a hardwired connection, maybe I'd go in and do some quick play, but I would not play comp. And I probably wouldn't do a raid with it. And I just feel that's attributed to the fact that there is enough input lag for it to be noticeable. You learn to compensate for it, but it was noticeable. And this is even on a hardwired connection. So cool. Hardwired connection using Chrome browser worked really good. I really was impressed with it. Then I said, well, what's going to be the situation when I travel? Well, I'll probably bring my MacBook Pro, or maybe I'll end up investing in like an Android tablet or something that works with Stadia, but most likely what's going to happen is I'll bring my MacBook Pro with me. So what I did was I got the MacBook Pro out, made sure it had a charged battery. I opened up Google Chrome. I connected my Xbox One X or my Xbox One Elite controller to the MacBook. And then I loaded up Destiny 2. And I did this on a wireless connection. So I used my 5 gigahertz wireless connection. I was roughly 10 feet away from the access point, and there was drywall between me and the access point. And I started playing Destiny, and my first thought was, holy moly, I'm playing Destiny 2 on my MacBook Pro, which is like, whoa, this is insane. You know, like I couldn't believe it. And it was really, really neat to be able to play Destiny on my laptop, my non-Windows, non-gaming laptop. It was a really cool feeling. And then I started to experience some artifacts, and I started to experience some stuttering and some frame rate drops. It didn't happen often. I would say that maybe out of my hours playtime that I did on my MacBook Pro, maybe 2 to 3% of the time I experienced some type of issue while I was playing. The input lag was just the same. I didn't really notice any change in the input lag based off my wireless or hardwired connection, but there was stuttering, there was some artifacts. So there was definitely a change between hardwire and wireless. So it's something that you want to be aware. But overall, I was still pretty darn impressed, because when you think about Stadia and you think about the fact that you are playing AAA titles without any hardware other than a controller is, I think, really impressive. Is it a replacement for a console or a gaming computer? No, it's not. At least not yet, right? I don't know if it necessarily will ever be a replacement for it, but it's a really good supplement to it, and that's what my initial thoughts were with it. So what are my overall thoughts about Stadia, and would I recommend that you invest your money and time into it? My overall thoughts are this. I think that this is a great solution for folks that are on the go, and for folks that understand that you're not playing on a multi-thousand-dollar gaming machine, you're not playing on a dedicated console, you are using the internet to stream a game without hardware at your location. If you go into it understanding that you may not have the best graphical fidelity, even though it is capable of doing 4K HDR, that is in perfect conditions, and if the game supports it. My experience with it was that were the graphics good to play? Yeah, absolutely. Was it something like being sitting in front of a 4K monitor using the Xbox One X right here together in the same room? No, it wasn't that. But I went into it thinking that, okay, this isn't going to be the best 100% best graphical experience that I ever had. I went into this thinking I need something to allow me to play games when I'm on the go. And I think Stadia absolutely solves for that ask. Now, are there some things that Stadia could improve upon? Yeah, absolutely. The game library needs to grow. It needs to grow a little faster than what it has been if they're hoping to get new people to come and adopt Stadia, and if they want to keep their current subscribers. I think that Google needs to put an emphasis on getting games ported over to the platform. Next, I think that the Google team needs to be a little bit better with communicating with the community as to what their roadmap is, what their plans are, and addressing the community itself. There is a Stadia subreddit, and I think there's a lot of really good dedicated community members that are keeping that subreddit going and providing information. But I haven't really seen too much coming from Google staff, and that's a little bit concerning to me. This is a fledgling technology. It's a new service. You want people to adopt it. You want people to stay. I think that they really need to invest in having good community management to help people understand the benefits of Stadia and keep their subscribers. The other thing that I think that could always be done is allowing Stadia to come to more devices. I would love to be able to use Stadia on my iPad Pro or my iPhone, right? iOS devices are out there. Obviously, a lot of people have iOS devices, and I'm one of them. I don't have an Android phone. I don't have an Android tablet. To have Stadia work on iOS devices would open up a whole new segment of the market to take advantage of Stadia. Now, obviously, Apple and Google are competitors in that market, so do I see it happening eventually? Yeah, I do. Do I see a priority for them to do it right now? No, I don't. That's all right. Again, go into it expecting that you're going to need to use that Chromecast Ultra, or you're going to need to use Google Chrome browser, or if you happen to have an Android device that's compatible with it, great, you're already set. I think the overall summary of this video is keep in mind this is fledgling technology. This is something that is new, it's going to be growing, it's not going away, and I think as the months and the years go by, streaming your games is going to become more and more popular. And I'm not talking about live streaming your games, I'm talking about using games without having the game hardware. It's going to become very popular. So getting in on the ground floor has some perks, and it also has some drawbacks. And you have to be willing to be flexible, and you have to be willing to understand that this is something that's new, and that it may not necessarily work the way that you always want it to work. But if you're someone that travels a decent amount, you want to have access to games, you look at Stadia, you meet the requirements to use Stadia, you can afford the $10 a month as it stands right now, and there are games in the Stadia game library that you want to play, I say, why not try it out? Make the investment and see if it works for you. That's about it for this video. What do you think about Stadia? Are you a Stadia user? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you have any issues with it? Any questions for me about my experience or things maybe that I forgot to mention? Go ahead and leave a comment. Definitely leave that below, and I really like engaging with folks on the comments, so please go ahead and do that. If you like this video and you want to see more, go ahead and hit subscribe, and you can hit the little bell notification icon if you want to be notified when I have new videos. I post new videos about once a week. And I really hope that you enjoyed this longer video on Google Stadia. So until next time, it's Reclaimer. We'll talk to you soon, Internet.